June 19th, 1899, Volume 2, Instability in Doing Good. Yesterday, having gone through a day of purgatory because of the almost total privation of my highest good, and because of the many temptations that the devil put in me, it seemed to me I committed a lot of sins. Oh God, what pain to offend God! This morning, as soon as I saw Jesus, immediately I said to him, "Good Jesus, forgive me for the many sins I committed yesterday." And I wanted to tell him all the evil I felt I had done. Interrupting me, he said to me, "If you make yourself disappear, you will never commit sins." I wanted to continue to speak, but Jesus, making me see many devout souls, and showing he did not want to hear what I wanted to tell him, began again to speak. That which most displeases me about these souls is their instability in doing good. One little thing, one disappointment, even one defect is enough. And while that is the time in which it is more necessary for them to cling more to me, they become irritated, they get disturbed, and they neglect the good which they had started. How many times I have prepared graces to give to them, but in seeing them so unstable, I have been forced to hold them back. Then, knowing that he did not want to hear anything of what I wanted to tell him, and seeing that my confessor was not well in the body, I prayed at length for him, and I asked Jesus various questions, which it is not necessary to say here. And Jesus benignly answered everything, and so it ended. June 19th, 1904, Volume 6, Sorrowful Times for the Church. The Glory of the Athletic Spirits. As I was in my usual state, I felt my adorable Jesus near me, saying, "My daughter, what a sorrowful stage the Church is about to enter. But all the glory in these times is of those athletic spirits who, heedless of shackles, chains, and pains, do nothing but break the thorny path that divides the society from God." Then he added, "One can see greed from human blood in man, he from the earth, and I will concur from heaven with earthquakes, fires, hurricanes, calamities such as to make a good part of them die." June 19th, 1922, Volume 14. Every time the soul operates in the eternal will, she gives God the field to release new beatitudes and new contentments. Continuing in my usual state, I felt submerged in the supreme will of my sweet Jesus. It seemed to me that every little act of mine done in the divine will made new contentments come out from the divine majesty. And my lovable Jesus told me, "My daughter, I possess such contentments, happiness, and beatitudes that I could give ever new joys and beatitudes in every instant. So every time the soul operates in my will, she gives me the field to release new beatitudes and new contentments which I possess. And since my will is immense and invades everyone and everything, as they come out, they flow over the soul who is operating in my will, as the primary cause for which my beatitudes are being released, and then they circulate in everyone, both in heaven and on earth. Therefore, as many times as you operate in my will, so many more beatitudes and joys do you make me release, and I feel the contentment of sharing the joys I possess. My will wants to release what it possesses, but it keeps looking for one who would give it the occasion, one who is disposed to receive, one who prepares a little place in her soul in which to place these new contentments of mine. Now, by wanting to do my will, the soul opens the doors of my volition, and emptying herself of her own volition, she prepares a little place for me in which to place my goods. And as she enters into my will to operate, she gives me the occasion to release new beatitudes from myself. Therefore I anxiously await that the soul come to operate in my eternal volition, in order to unleash a new joy from myself and make myself known as the God who is never exhausted and who has always something to give to one who does my will. June 19th, 1929, Volume 26, The Divine Will and the Operating Life of It in the Creature. Difference between one who lives in the Fiat and one who does not. My poor mind was wandering in the divine Fiat. I felt the sweet enchantment of its enrapturing light, and I thought to myself, but what is this divine will in my poor soul? And my beloved Jesus moving in my interior told me, my daughter, what fortune yours is to live under the sweet enchantment of my divine volition. Don't you know that when it takes possession of the creature, it forms in her its operating life, in such a way that it operates in the one in whom it reigns, just as it operates within itself? And more than queen, it imposes itself over everything. It extends with its light in the littleness of the creature. It forms in her its sweet enchantment for the human will, so as to be more free to form its life. And since the divine life of my Fiat is composed of repeated acts, never interrupted, it is not subject to stopping, and this is why you feel within yourself an act that never ends, a light that is never extinguished, a love that always burns. Not so for those who do not live in my volition. They feel the divine life interrupted in their interior, their acts broken. They feel themselves now one way, now another. Their will is not invested by a continuous light that sweetly nourishes them and enchants them, such that, feeling the sweetness of my volition, they would not give a thought to entering the field in order to operate in a human way. And if they feel the light, it is at intervals. A symbol of one who lives in my divine will is one who could be able to remain always under the sun. Its light never ends, nor does it need to be fed in order not to become extinguished. So one who could live under the sun would feel light raining down constantly upon herself, and since the light contains admirable effects, she would nourish herself with sweetnesses, with fragrances, with varieties of colors, with lights, in such a way as to feel the very life of the sun being formed within herself. On the other hand, one who does not live in my will, be it even one who is not evil, is symbolized by one who lives under the light of the low world, that has neither the virtue nor the power to form a sweet enchantment of light, such as to eclipse her so much that she would not be able to look at anything but light. And it is subject to becoming extinguished very often, because it does not possess by nature the continuous nourishing virtue. And if it is not nourished, her light ends. And since a light formed by the creature possesses neither sweetness, nor colors, nor fragrances, she cannot feel the life of that light being formed within herself. What great difference between one who lives in my divine will and one who lives outside of it! May everything be for the glory of God and for the good of my poor soul. End of June 19th. Fiat.